Welcome to another episode of Crime Decoder. In 2004, a 21-year-old nursing student named Maura Murray vanished in the blink of an eye. No final phone call, no confirmed sightings, no definitive trace ever found, no answers 20 years later. Her story isn't just about a girl who went missing. It's about what happens when the people meant to protect us stop asking the right questions. This is the crash that became a cold case. It's Monday, February 9th, 2004. Temperatures hovered just below freezing. Snow covers the back roads of Haverhill, New Hampshire. Just after 7:25 p.m., a resident named Faith Westman calls 911. The call was, "There's a car in the ditch outside. I think a young woman is involved." The vehicle is a black 1996 Saturn sedan. Airbags deployed, windshield cracked, wine spilled. But when police arrive, Maura is gone. There's no sign of a struggle. No tracks leading away. It's just a car and questions. Neighbor Butch Atwood, a bus driver, reported speaking to a young woman at the crash scene minutes earlier. He offered help. She declined, claimed to have called AAA, but there was no cell service in the area. Police searched the car. What they found only deepened the mystery. A nearly empty box of Franzia wine, a Coke bottle reeking of alcohol, her favorite stuffed monkey, school books, and a rag stuffed deep into the Saturn's exhaust pipe. There were no signs of blood. There's no phone, no wallet. Police took photos. But the scene was never locked down. Police didn't even treat it like a crime scene. They treated it like a drunk driving case. That assumption, possibly a runaway or intoxicated driver, may have cost investigators vital evidence in the critical first 24 hours. What was Maura doing on Route 112 that night? What compelled a disciplined nursing student to leave campus without telling anyone? Just hours before her disappearance, Maura emptied her bank account $280. She emailed professors saying there was a death in the family. There wasn't. She packed her dorm room belongings in boxes and printed MapQuest directions to Vermont. It was like she was leaving for good, but no one knew why. Police later found her room neatly arranged, with school supplies stacked and artwork taken off walls. Maura had also made strange calls in the hours before she vanished. One to a number associated with a condo rental in Bartlett, New Hampshire. Another to her boyfriend's voicemail. And a final call to her own voicemail at 4:37 p.m. In the first days, Maura's case received almost no media coverage. Why? Because law enforcement believed she had run away. No Amber Alert, no public warning, no roadblocks, no bolo. Even more troubling, police reports were withheld from the Murray family. The first press release didn't go out until days later. The rag in the tailpipe remains one of the strangest clues in the entire case. Was it sabotage? Was she meeting someone? Was someone following her? There's a theory that she was chased off the road, and that person picked her up, or worse, made her disappear. But without surveillance cameras or cell tower data, most of which were never released, we may never know. The Maura Murray case begins with a crash. But what followed was silence, suspicion, and secrecy. A woman vanishes. Police look the other way, and a father refuses to let go. At first glance, Maura Murray was what every parent hopes their daughter becomes. A star athlete. Right, student? Responsible daughter. She was enrolled in the University of Massachusetts Amherst, pursuing nursing. But behind the accolades was something far more complex. Maura began her college career at West Point, one of the most demanding institutions in the country. But less than a year in, she transferred. The reason? An incident involving stolen makeup? She was caught using a stolen credit card. They wanted to keep it quiet, but it meant her time there was over. She quietly left West Point and enrolled at UMass. Her family described it as a fresh start, but the cracks had already begun to show. On February 5th, 2004, just days before she vanished, Maura was working her regular job at the UMass security desk. At 10:20 p.m., she received a phone call. No one knows for sure what was said, but shortly after, she broke down. It took 90 minutes before she was escorted back to her dorm. Whatever happened that night shook her deeply, and it marked the beginning of the end. In the days that followed, Maura's actions became increasingly erratic, some say strategic. Maura was in a long-distance relationship with Bill Rausch, a fellow cadet at West Point, now working in D.C. They exchanged dozens of emails. Some described love, others hinted at control, according to reports and later released phone logs. Bill was calling Maura constantly in her final days. One voicemail left hours before her disappearance has never been made public. Some believe it holds a clue. Others say it was the final straw. There's speculation Bill was abusive. There's no proof. But the dynamic seems off. Strangely, Bill would later be granted access to Maura's dorm room and belongings before her own family was. In Maura's car was a printed MapQuest direction, set targeting Vermont. A condo listing from Bartlett, New Hampshire, was found in her trash. She had no classes scheduled. No one knew she was leaving. She told no friends. Left no notes. But she was heading somewhere. It's possible she planned to run away and start fresh. But she took her school books with her. Why would you bring textbooks if you're planning to disappear? Others believe she was meeting someone, perhaps a person she trusted, maybe someone she had met online, someone from her past. One theory even suggests she was fleeing an abusive situation and planned to cross the border into Canada. Every piece of Maura's life in those final 72 hours feels like a breadcrumb. The question is, who were they left for? Maura began the day early, placing a call to a condominium rental agency in Bartlett, New Hampshire, around 10 a.m. Why Bartlett? It was a location her family vacationed at in the past, but she told no one she was going there. At 11:26 a.m., she sent an email to her nursing school professors. She claimed there had been a death in the family, and she would be gone for a week. That was false. No one in her family had died. Fabricating a death suggests she didn't want anyone looking for her, or at least not asking why she was gone. She then searched for directions to Burlington, Vermont en route information using MapQuest. This was 2004, before smartphones. Sometime between noon and 1 p.m., Maura packed her Saturn sedan. School books, clothes, toiletries, and sentimental items including her stuffed monkey and childhood keepsakes. But notably no phone charger, no toothbrush, and no passport. At 3:40 p.m., she withdrew $280, her entire bank balance, from an ATM in Amherst. Surveillance footage shows MauraAlone.com wearing a black jacket and jeans. She then visited a nearby liquor store around 3:50 p.m. and purchased Bailey's Irish Cream, Franzia wine, Kahlua, and a bottle of vodka. According to liquor store owner, she didn't seem nervous, just quiet. It's like someone who knew exactly what she was doing. Between 4 o'clock and 7 p.m., Maura was on the move. Heading north from Amherst toward New Hampshire, she didn't inform her friends, family, or professors. By 7:15 p.m., she was in Haverhill, according to GPS reconstruction. Her car traveled along Route 112, a remote, winding road through the White Mountains. 7:27 p.m. Local resident Faith Westman called 911. She reported seeing a car off the road outside her home. Yes, there's a car crash. It's a dark car. I see someone inside. Minutes later, neighbor Butch Atwood, a school bus driver, approached the vehicle and spoke to the driver, believed to be Maura. She said she called someone, but there's no signal in that area. That seems strange to Atwood. He drove away to call 911. But when police arrived at 7:46 p.m., Maura was gone. Sergeant Cecil Smith was the first officer on scene. He found the black Saturn against the snowbank driver's side damaged, windshield cracked. Inside the vehicle, Franzia wine spilled across the back seat. An open Coke bottle that smelled of alcohol. Maura's school books, her birth control, and a rag stuffed tightly into the tailpipe, but no footprints were found leading away. No blood, no signs of a struggle. For a young woman to vanish within a 7-minute window without being seen, heard, or tracked is almost unthinkable. Between 7:15 and 7:27 p.m., we know Maura crashed. Between 7:27 and 7:46 p.m., she vanished. But what happened in that 19-minute gap? Later analysis showed no outgoing or incoming calls after 4:37 p.m. that day. Her phone simply went dark. Police never located it. There are 3 scenarios here. 1, she ran into the woods and succumbed to the cold. 2, she was picked up by a passing vehicle. 3, she was abducted. Local rumors emerged of a red truck seen in the area. Police have never confirmed or denied pursuing that lead. Atwood's timeline doesn't perfectly align with police logs. Some believe he waited too long to call. Others go further. People have speculated whether Atwood was involved. There's no evidence. but his story changed slightly over time, and that's enough to raise suspicion. Across the street, Faith Westman made the first 911 call at 7:27 p.m. She reported a loud thump outside, presumably the crash and a woman walking around the vehicle. But Faith never saw Maura up close. Her report was vague. Her husband, Tim Westman, said he saw lights flashing and someone moving quickly. Could it have been Maura or someone else? Then there's witness report number 3. Barbara and Tim M. Neighbors who allegedly spotted a suspicious vehicle around 8 p.m. after police arrived. Days later, one of the other witnesses described the same red truck as described by other witness. The red truck theory has haunted this case. Is it just a local contractor passing by, or the key to Maura's disappearance? And other evidence found stuffed tightly into the Saturn's tailpipe. A rag. Police barely mentioned it in early reports. Fred Murray's father said it was his rag. He had shown Maura how to use it for smoke prevention during mechanical issues. Others, however, suggest a darker theory, that the rag was intentionally placed to stall the vehicle, forcing Maura to crash in a controlled area. But no fingerprints were ever lifted from the rag. No forensic analysis has been made public. Like so much else in this case, it simply disappeared. Sergeant Cecil Smith was first on scene at 7:46 p.m. His report says the car was locked, airbags deployed, and no one present. But was it really him? Controversy later emerged that it may have been Officer John Monaghan, not Smith, who first arrived, driving an SUV, not a cruiser. Discrepancies in vehicle descriptions fuel long-standing conspiracy theories about police cover-ups. Why would police misreport who arrived first? If Maura was picked up by someone, or worse, was there something they didn't want the public to know? No dashcam footage has ever been released. Radio logs from that night were incomplete for years. Some believe Maura was never at the crash site, that someone else, an impersonator, was driving, or that she left the scene willingly and wasn't alone. Her keys and wallet were never found. If she ran into the woods in a panic, she would have left tracks. None were found. A cadaver dog team brought in days later found no trace of her scent past 100 yards. Was she picked up? Was she lured into a trap? And there was one more report. A man from a nearby home claimed to have seen a young woman hurrying down the road minutes after the crash. He never followed up. Police never confirmed the tip. With witnesses contradicting each other, timelines shifting, and law enforcement slow to release information, one thing becomes clear. Either something truly strange happened on Route 112 that night, or someone didn't want us to know the truth. When someone goes missing, the first few hours are critical. But in Maura Murray's case, the first few hours were squandered. At 7:46 p.m., Sergeant Cecil Smith of the Haverhill Police Department arrived on scene. The Saturn was locked. The driver was gone. But rather than treating the car as a possible crime scene, it was simply towed. Smith wrote in his report that Maura likely left the scene on foot and may have been intoxicated. No mention of foul play, no call for a K-9 unit, no grid search. This assumption would define the investigation for weeks. Despite a report of a missing young woman and an abandoned car, no ground search was initiated that night. Not until the next day did authorities begin canvassing the area. By then, snowfall and plows had likely erased any footprints or potential evidence Maura may have left behind. The rule is simple. You search immediately. Every minute counts. First 12 hours are your window. They waited almost 24. A dog unit was eventually deployed, but not until 2 days later. Cadaver dog picked up a scent but lost it 100 yards east of the crash site. Did Maura enter a nearby house? Get into a vehicle? We'll never know. The scent was gone, and so was she. Perhaps most troubling is the mishandling or outright disappearance of key evidence. This wasn't just a bad search. It was an incomplete investigation. Even more shocking, Maura's phone records were delayed for weeks. There should have been tower data. Even if the phone was off, pings could show where it was last located. That data never surfaced. Authorities initially told Maura's family they believed she had run away. The evidence? A few bottles of alcohol and a vague email to professors? Fred begged law enforcement to escalate the case to the state level. It would take 5 days before the New Hampshire State Police got involved. By that time, the trail was cold. No CCTV from stores, no gas station footage. All overwritten or gone. Over the next decade, the investigation stalled. Records were redacted. Reports were withheld, even from Maura's own family. In 2006, a police dispatcher admitted in court that certain logs from that night had been altered, and then came the surveillance footage from the Amherst ATM. It wasn't released publicly until 2011, 7 years after Maura vanished. Why the delay? What were they trying to protect? Or worse, what had already been lost? No proper search. No chain of evidence, no urgency, no answers. As the Murray family's faith in law enforcement eroded, they turned to the media and to the public. Because someone out there knows something, and the evidence, it was never just lost, it was ignored. This is the official line still repeated by some law enforcement. That Maura, drunk and disoriented, ran into the freezing woods and succumbed to the cold. This theory, championed by former U.S. martial art Roderick, is deeply disturbing in its simplicity. The theory posits that Maura was traveling with someone else, either in another car ahead or behind. When she crashed, that person arrived and picked her up before police came. But if she was picked up willingly, why didn't she contact her family? Why vanish completely, unless that tandem driver had darker intentions? In rural New Hampshire, abductions are rare but not impossible. Some theorize Maura was offered help and got in the wrong car. Multiple residents reported seeing a red pickup truck in the area, circling the scene. Some believe this vehicle is the key. Was it a passerby or a predator waiting for someone like Maura? But to date, the red truck and its driver have never been identified. Few theories have gained more momentum or more controversy than this one. Could law enforcement have been involved, or at least complicit? The state's refusal to release full records for years only adds to suspicion. And when Maura's father began pressing harder, access became tighter. Leads disappeared. Evidence was lost. Some suggest Maura was struggling with mental health, that the pressure of school, a recent car crash, and relationship issues led her to take her own life. Another theory was, what if Maura Murray didn't die, wasn't abducted, but instead planned a calculated disappearance? This theory paints Maura as a woman under immense pressure, a father expecting perfection, a boyfriend cheating on her, a secret past, including an academic scandal. Some believe she left it all behind, changed her identity, crossed into Canada, and started over. But Maura's bank account was never touched. Her phone never pinged again. Her passport remained unclaimed. For nearly 20 years, Fred Murray has refused to let his daughter become another cold case statistic. Fred became a tireless advocate not just for Maura, but for the families of the missing. He filed lawsuit after lawsuit, fought tooth and nail for access to police records, and was stonewalled at every turn. Fred has since passed the torch to Maura's siblings, but his determination remains the soul of this case. As police closed their doors, the internet opened new ones. Online sleuths uncovered timelines, maps, inconsistencies, and they began asking questions that authorities couldn't or wouldn't answer. From drone searches to anonymous tips, the digital community refused to let Maura disappear. This case became a template for online activism. It exposed how police failure can be countered by people power. But with that power came misinformation, wild speculation, and new pain for Maura's family. Over the years, new leads trickled in, some promising, others chilling. In 2006, a home near the crash site was searched. Cadaver dogs signaled in the basement. Ground-penetrating radar showed possible disturbances, but the homeowner refused excavation. No warrant, no search. They may have buried her under concrete. The state just walked away. In 2017, a skull fragment was found 15 miles away. The FBI tested it, results inconclusive. In 2021, police dug in a different area. Again, nothing. New Hampshire State Police maintained the case is open, but there are no suspects. No evidence disclosed. No updates. The word cover-up gets thrown around icily, but in this case, there are facts that make the term hard to ignore. Conflicting witness statements, altered logs, disappearing evidence, the wrong vehicle, controversy, missing surveillance tapes, redacted records over 2 decades. Many believe that something happened that night, something the Haverhill police didn't want the world to know. Maura Murray has become a symbol of police failure, of media obsession, of the growing divide between truth and silence. Today, her case is still open, still cold, Still aching? What happens now is up to all of us. The case is only as cold as the silence around it. Maura Murray was not just a missing person. She was a daughter, a sister, a student, a human being. Somewhere out there is the truth. See you on another day with another truth, another mystery. Subscribe to our YouTube channel for more chilling stories and to uncover more crimes.